Welcome, everybody, to another episode of One Another Marriage podcast, where we seek to strengthen marriage for greater impact on the world around you and us, and greater fulfillment in each marriage that's out there. That is our heart and our passion. Hello, Theresa Mabry.
Hello, David Mabry. How are you?
I'm doing fabulous. How are you today?
Doing well. Yep.
Good. What are we talking about today?
We are headed into S for our love step material, and S stands for serve. So we are going to be unpacking last episode and over the next few episodes our one another marriage material, which is based upon the one another's out of the Bible. And we have developed what we call love step. And that stands for love one another. And then STEP is an acronym: serve one another, touch one another, edify one another, and have peace with one another. So we're going to be unpacking those. And today is S for serve one another.
Serve one another. And you know what?
Let's hear it for the servers.
Yay.
Good job.
That's we really appreciate the faithful listeners that are out there. And we've had a wonderful kickoff to this podcast for the last several weeks, and those that have faithfully listened every week,
checked in,
and we've had some folks do reviews and likes and shares, and it makes all the difference.
It does,
because we really want to help as many couples as possible, and you're all part of the team. Those of you that are listening out there, one another, and you are called the one another couples. If you are listening on a regular basis, if you've listened to more than two, you are a one another couple, and you're part of the team.
Right.
And so let's join together as a team, sharing with as many people as possible. Put it in your social media places, and also, if you have not already, rate and review.
Right.
It makes all the difference with getting the word out. Apple iTunes particularly, they love it when they're rating and reviewing going forward. Help us, and that's together as a team. Let's reach as many people as possible with this information.
Right. Absolutely.
So here we are. Yesterday was a big day, wasn't it?
Yesterday was a big day.
It's late tax day. It was yesterday.
All right.
Yesterday was late tax day.
Yeah,
late
tax day. You know, it is odd, right? I mean, we are in our 50s now, so April 15th has been the date drilled into your noggin for forever. And then last year things went sideways, right, for 2020, and now this year they choose May 19th?
15th.
15th?
Yeah.
No. Is it? Okay, May 15th. Why did I think 19th? I don't know.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's not the 15th. Yeah.
What are we turned around? Yeah.
17.
17, yeah.
Yeah, May 17th.
That's right. That's right.
Sorry, we had to look at a calendar all of a sudden. There we go.
We got confused.
So, but happy late day after late tax day.
Late tax day.
Wow,
to you.
that's so confusing.
And you know why it's confusing is because it fell on a weekend. The 15th.
The 15th fell on a weekend, which meant they had to bump it to the Monday.
Yep. That's right. So, happy late tax day to everybody, and I hope you got your... did we mention that one another marriage is tax exempt? So if you have any extra dollars you want to donate, you can do that. And speaking of taxes,
we have not mentioned that.
We haven't got the word out there. But if you want to support our work, go to our website and donate. We'd really appreciate it. We don't have any sponsors for this podcast, and so it's a great opportunity. And here we are on number 7 or 8, 7, and we've not asked for donations yet or included that. And so, and if that causes you to click right now,
awesome.
I think if you're getting something out of this, not only like, share, review, rate, review, but also consider going to oneanothermarriage.com
exactly
and hit that donut.
Hit
the donut button.
We do not have any donuts on our website.
No free donuts.
But we have a donate button.
Donate button.
Awesome.
So So,
awesome.
hey, there we go.
All right, dude. You have the puzzle this
Today.
week. Yeah, you have the puzzle today. So remember, if it's your first time joining us, we like to give a connecting point of our relationship, of how we're doing, and connecting with each other. And so one of the areas that we encourage couples to connect is to share puzzles.
Mm-hmm.
And puzzles are just those questions that you have in your brain that you just kind of like keep up there. You may not always talk about them with anyone else, but and your puzzle can never be about your spouse. Okay.
Yeah.
Or your partner.
Yeah.
So we take turns, and today David has the puzzle ready, set, and I don't know what it is. So I'm ready.
I have a puzzle for you.
I am ready.
And it's not about
and here's the other thing about the puzzles. I'm not solving it. I'm just listening. Okay.
Yeah, just letting your partner into your brain a little bit. And so here's a little bit into David's brain, which would be I'm puzzled that in our neighborhood, now that the seasons have changed, someone is always mowing the lawn. The mowers it's like the sound of the season. And it's the funny thing is that typically, don't you remember a time that we like weekends? People are mowing on the weekends. They save it for the weekends. But I'm telling you what, every day of the week, someone's mowing the lawn
at all times of the day.
Some neighbors I want to look at and go, it's not ready yet. Your lawn's not ready.
True.
Are you? And I want to look at them too and go,
gosh.
how's your marriage? Because perhaps you want to get out and mow the lawn because you don't want to be in the house, which is very sad. You should listen to One Another Marriage podcast, and then you won't be mowing so much.
That's great. Yeah, you're right.
Am I wrong?
You're right. No, you're totally on. And like, we are typically a once a week kind of mowing family. Unless it's just really extreme or
whatever. Let's make it clear. If the neighbors mow on either side of us, then we're like, well, it was like this last week. What was it? The one side of us was mowing, and I was like, okay, maybe I'll get to it tomorrow.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, the guy on the other side fires it up.
Right.
And then I'm like, he fires his mower
and
up,
and I think I yelled up to you, all right,
now I got
so-and-so's mowing.
Now
it looks like we're committed now. But you're right. Yeah, like the puzzling thing is that like some people, it's like they just don't have anything else to do. And they're mowing more than once a week, but also just all different kinds of times during the day and every single day.
This is a funny thing too.
It's crazy.
I think I can almost tell you exactly who is mowing by the sound of the mower. I can be in the house and not even looking outside.
Right.
It does help, like, from direction, right?
Yes.
I could be like, that's on the east side of the house, or not the east side, but it would be actually the north side of the house. And let me see, I bet you it's so-and-so because the sound of the mower is what. And I'm about to buy mufflers for all the mowers.
No.
Or require electric.
No, really?
Then it'd be quiet.
You're not going to do that. I know. I was going to say, why are you going to require something of someone that you're not even going to do yourself?
I mean, I'm not judging or anything, but
I'm calling you out on that one.
You're
not.
Now, let's connect this with our topic for today.
Okay.
That typically you're cracking the whip, Theresa Mabry.
Come on.
It's like, let's go. Let's get moving.
Go.
So here's the deal, is that mowing, I have primarily been the mower in our family, but you have mowed in the past periodically. But so
what do you mean period? I don't know where you're headed with this.
Well, yeah, so you have mowed the lawn before.
Yes.
But I've been the primary mower, right?
Right.
So there have been times, this is what I'm getting at. There have been times that you have mowed the lawn because I couldn't get to it, or I've been traveling, or I've had other things that I'm
sometimes I just
working
want
on.
the exercise and get out there and mow.
But
yes,
the point being is that when you have done it, it's super helpful to me.
Yeah.
And that act of service for something that's not traditionally within kind of your lane within the household, right? and I've done the same thing for you. So our point today, what we're talking about with couples, is sometimes there are a couple different things. Sometimes doing things within the management of your household or within your relationship that are really helpful to your spouse or your partner, and sometimes it's in your lane, and sometimes it's not in your lane, right?
Right.
But serving one another is a key element, and the question we attach to it, which we'll circle back to later, which would be, how can I be most helpful to you today?
Right.
So it's
right.
So is there anything that I have done in the same way, like mowing,
right,
that you've done for me,
right,
when it's not really your primary, but it's been helpful to me?
Yes.
Have I also been able to contribute in the same way?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, there's many times where you have made dinner, or you don't mind cooking, which is great. But that's not been your primary role.
I actually enjoy cooking a lot.
Yeah, our entire marriage.
I like eating.
Yes, you like eating, but there are times where I'm in the middle of something or whatever's going on, and you will just go ahead and put together dinner or lunch or whatever it is that we're getting ready to have. Just the same way that I can sense at different times when mowing is going to be on your plate, but it's just not getting. You're just not able to get to it because you've had other things, and so if I do find myself free, then I'm just kind of like, you know what, I'm going to go out and do this because I know that it helps you out, and it also it allows then sometimes you've come out and joined in with doing some other yard work. So if I'm taking care of that task, then it's allowed you the freedom to be able to come out and pop in something else that you wanted to do, whether it was the weeding or whatever it is. And the same vice versa. If you're taking care of cooking the meal or prep work or whatever to get that ready and done, I may come in and be following up behind you by cleaning at the same time, so that when the meal is over, I'm not, just taking care of everything on the backside and to clean up, but we can actually go on and do something else together.
Yeah, the ebb and flow of our household is typically been that whoever cooks doesn't have to have the carry the burden of clean up, and the one that cleans up necessarily. So that's kind of how we balance. It doesn't work perfectly always, but we try. And so for your relationship, for your folks that are listening out there, for your relationship,
you're okay. Yes,
talking
thank you.
To the peeps,
the peeps. I
out
gotcha.
there. So one another couples out there, when in your relationship, how do you serve one another? What does that look like for you? And how do you appreciate the acts of service? Now, we talked about the 5 love languages in a few weeks ago, and it's not the same as, and we've always said, the 5 love languages, it does not mean that you don't speak words of affirmation, acts of service, gifts. It doesn't mean you never give gifts, physical touch. So they're quality time. You do those things. It may not be a primary. Acts of service may not be a primary love language for you in your relationship, but you still need to have acts of service within your marriage. And we would make the contention that it's foundational for the health and vitality of a relationship, where you're both contributing to the relationship and contributing in awareness of your partner's needs.
Right.
So if they're needing you to pick up slack somewhere where they're lacking because of the ebb and flow, or if it's just a regular kind of like, I don't like doing that in the household. I don't like doing that service. And so could you do that? And you kind of get used to that as time goes.
Right. But even in the it's easy to think of with service. It's so easy to think of like, tasks, oriented things like that, which primarily it does fall under that category. But at the same time, it could be serving each other by recognition of just maybe the mood or something that's happening with your spouse or partner, and maybe they do just need to, you just need to go over and say, you know what, let's just go sit down for a little bit and just kind of maybe cuddle on the couch, because you may be sensing that they just really need, they need a hug, or they just need you for a few moments and just some peace and quiet, and just and that could be an act of service. So recognizing that emotion or attitude that's going on, and the other spouse steps in, and it becomes helpful in a different way.
You've stepped up in this way recently that I've really appreciated, where I've really been struggling with some back pain, some muscles, and you have even initiated like massaging and using the massager. We have this incredible, our children gave us a massager.
Yeah.
How long ago was that?
I think it's been 3 years now on Christmas.
You hit
so
that little button, it charges up, you hit the little button and it kind of vibrates to massage the sore muscles in the back. And so you have used that on my back on a couple rough days that I've had. And I know that I've done the same for you, but that's
and I love that thing because it's helpful, because I could never, with my own hands, I could never massage your back well enough to be as helpful to you in working out the kinks or whatever. And so but you're right.
That act of service has been really appreciated. And you could look at me and go, dude, figure it out kind of thing. But that's to me, that has been really sacrificial, and I've appreciated it a lot. So thank you, Theresa Mabry.
You're welcome.
We pull this from, verse of the day we're gonna hit now, because and through this whole series that we're doing here in May, doing Love Step, we're going to be introducing Scripture a little bit more. And once again, we've said this last week, and we'll maybe say it every week, that you may be a one another couple that's listening, and you may not have a faith-based background. You may not have, and that's absolutely fine. We really are glad that you're connecting with us wherever you are at, faith-based wise. We're okay with that. We'd love for you to explore faith in Christ. We come at it from a Christian standpoint, from using the Old and New Testament. And if that's not where you're at right now, that's fine, but we'd love for you to be introduced to some of this. Many of you, though, out there are from a faith-based background. You have a church background. You understand Scripture. And so this is going to be encouraging to you to have that. And so we believe that Scripture gives us a foundation and some direction, and ultimately transformation because of the life that's offered. So for us, we're going to walk through some of the Scripture, and for us, the foundational verse will come out of John chapter 13, the Gospel of John, which covers the story of Jesus, and chapter 13, it deals with and those of you that are astute out there, you're going to be like, hey, you did John 13 like last week, because that's the love one another verse as well. But right before the love one another verse comes the serve one another verse. And basically, let me give you the story real quick. Jesus, and many people are familiar with this, Jesus was in the upper room, and he took a basin and a towel, and he went to each of his disciples, and he washed their feet, which is pretty kind of scandalous, kind of crazy that he would do this, because he's the master, he's the Lord, he's the leader of them, and he took time to take his followers, wash his followers' feet. Now, furthermore, this would be a job that would be done by the servants at the door, the hired servants that would be at the door, that same ones that would serve the meal or whatever. They would also wash the feet, because in that time the feet would get pretty dirty in the sandals walking on the dirt roads. But Jesus is the one that took up the towel and the basin, and he washed each of their feet. Right. And then what he did was, when he was done, completed this task, he said this, and this is our verse for the day, and our base verse for serving one another. John 13:14 says, "If I then, your Lord and teacher," this is Jesus speaking, If I then, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet. And there's that one another word again, the two words.
Right.
And so we would say that if this is a marriage verse,
right,
Jesus would be saying to us in our marriage, in your relationship, that he's humbled himself to wash the feet of his followers. Right. We also ought to wash one another's feet. We should humble ourselves and serve one another.
Right. But that's so easily said, more so than done, especially with the humbling ourselves and having an act of selflessness, right, towards other people. So so just because you hear David and I talking about this and we're going to become very like passionate about it, it doesn't mean that we've always done it perfectly. We strive to do this well, but it's a challenge. It's a real challenge to serve out of a loving stance. And some of the things that we're going to cover right here, and then we're going to be giving our scripture as well, is we're going to be going over a few of these dichotomies that we call them, right? And so
it's a this or that kind of thing. It's like, well, you can choose to go this direction,
right,
or you can go in the way of service,
or you can go that.
And so you can go this or that area.
Right. And so the first one that we're going to talk about is a service versus sinfulness. Service versus sinfulness. So you could choose the this, which is let's go ahead and have that spirit of service, or you could choose the that, which is the spirit of sinfulness.
Which is a verse for that, and then I'll let you unpack it a little bit more. It's Galatians chapter 5, verse 13. So the book of Galatians, chapter 5, verse 13, says, you, my brothers and sisters, were called to be free, but do not use your freedom to indulge in the sinful nature. Rather, serve one another in love. So he says, listen, in your marriage, let's do this as a marriage verse. In your marriage, you really are free to do whatever you want.
Right.
You don't have to serve.
Right. Exactly.
You don't have to do anything, but you're free. But because you're free, don't use it to indulge in sinful nature, which the sinful nature would be not serving of
right?
Being selfish, of doing your own thing.
Yeah.
And then, but he's saying, rather, you know what? Use your freedom to serve one another. You are free to serve, so do it.
Right, right. And that's that is tricky and challenging, and that's what we're saying is like it really does take the right attitude to go about it and humbling yourself, because there are going to be those moments that come across in your marriage where you are not going to feel like serving your spouse. No, you're not going to feel like serving your spouse. And and that's what we talk with couples about. You know, it's like, you know, on our wedding day, June 12th, 1993, you know, I committed to bring out the best in you. You committed to bring out the best in me, to pull out the best in each other. And we committed to an usness. It's no longer a you, a me, an I, but we are together and we're an us. And so for the beauty and the and the encouragement and just the wholeness of keeping the us together, you really need to work on serving out of that act of love, and that's both people. You know, can't just have one person doing it, but it's both people. You got to find those areas and ways in which to serve. So let's go to the next dichotomy. So this one would be this you could choose would be serving out of spirit of submission, or that would be a spirit of dominance.
And so Ephesians 5:21 says, submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. And so the submission, you could choose to be like, you know what? I think I'm going to pay attention to the needs of my partner. I'm going to,
right.
And it's hard to submit to your partner when you aren't aware of who they are going forward, or it can be dominance. The reason why we have these this dichotomy of submission versus dominance is because that Ephesians chapter 5, that whole section there talks about submitting to one another. it, and it goes on. Then it says, "Wives, submit to your husbands. Husbands, love your wives." And people always like to talk about, well, the Bible talks about, wives need to submit, and it's like, no, that's a mutual submission thing.
Yeah.
Yes, wives should submit, but yes, husbands should submit as well. And a lot of times people get the teaching wrong in that passage, and it's a dominating passage. It's like husbands are it does not teach that you dominate over. In fact, it goes on to say this is crazy but true, crazy awesome, and that is, it says husbands should be like Jesus, who laid down his life. For the church. And husbands, you should submit to the point of laying down your life for your wife, so that spirit of submission. And so it's not just wives submit, it's husbands submit as well. And to do otherwise is to dominate over top of your partner. And you should not dominate over top of your partner. When you serve one another, you're like, you know what? I'm going to pay attention to who they are, and I'm not going to lord it over. That's not my position to lord it over.
Exactly. Yeah, because that dominance isn't going to get you anywhere. All right, let's go to the next one. So this dichotomy would be, how about let's have a serving attitude without complaint versus a serving attitude with grumbling. So the this is to serve without complaint, and the that is to grumble the whole time you're doing it.
Yeah.
1 Peter 4:9. Hold on, let me get it here. 1 Peter 4:9 says, offer hospitality to one another without grumbling.
We're going to see that hospitality be a serving encouragement, right? And to do that without grumbling. Now, this is, Theresa Mabry, this is a tough one right here.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
I mean,
are you saying for me?
No, I think in general for most people. And I bet you anything that...
No, I will let the audience in. He is speaking truth. Theresa Mabry has struggled with serving without complaining.
And I'm telling you what, there are folks that are listening right now who are going, yeah, that's a toughie.
Yeah.
You've had, you, meaning listeners out there, you've had moments, haven't you? We've had moments where it's like, it's you'd rather complain, or it's easy to complain. It feels easier to complain than to just serve, just give hospitality, give grace and patience, and or you know what, I don't want to go mow the lawn, or I don't want to do the dishes, or I don't want to clean that bathroom, or I don't want to go pick up the kids right now. Why can't you do that? I'm sick and tired of being obligated to do this, that, or the other thing. But to really check our spirits and know that what's best for the relationship is to serve without complaining and grumbling, because it really negates that act of service, right?
Well, and I know for myself, when I find myself being frustrated, in this act of service, that there have been moments over the years, everything that you just listed, I think I've accomplished before, but where I've just verbally told you, like, I don't want to do this. Like I whether it was my turn to, go to the grocery, or just do whatever, it was back in the day, or one of the kids was out and it was my turn to go get them, or whatever. I remember specific moments and times where if I was sharing that frustration with you, sometimes it was just, I just need to say it, but I know that I still need to go do it because it's for the betterment of the us. But there have been moments too where you have stepped in and said, you know what, I'll go get them, and you just take a few minutes on your own, or whatever. And so I've so appreciated those moments as well, when you have stepped in and served without complaint, right? Or or you've, because I noticed that that's a help coming out. And while I may not have done the best job at letting you in on it, it may have come out in like a frustrating moment, I also know that I can come to you now, this many years later, and I can say, I just really don't want to do this, and then there are moments though where I just needed to tell you,
Mm-hmm.
and then I go and I do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I at that point then I can do it without complaint. But sometimes I tell you and you look at me and you're just like, you know what? I'll go do that, and you take time out or whatever.
Sometimes it's difficult. Yeah, I recognize those moments, and I don't mind at all those times that I recognize, like, oh, this will be most helpful for Theresa if I jump in here. But it's it's difficult. I know from my perspective, it's difficult to sometimes receive the help because it's like, no, you do enough already,
Right.
or this is my role,
Right.
and I need to um, not negate that or lax on that. I need to push through and do this. And so sometimes it's necessary to kind of push forward and do it, but also to humble ourselves and receive the help when we need to.
Right.
So.
Well, and you kind of dipped a little bit into the last one there. The dichotomy there would be to serve in humility versus pride.
Mm-hmm.
So is the this going to be to serve with humility, or the that serving in a prideful way? And the verse that goes with that is 1 Peter 5:5.
Yeah, which says, young men in the same way, be submissive to those who are older. All of you, clothe yourselves with humility towards one another, because God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. And so all of you, clothe yourselves with humility towards one another. So it's actually putting on that garment, that the clothing, those clothes that are necessary, so you're not running around naked, and your pride makes you naked.
Right.
So
none of your nakedity.
Your nakedity.
Yeah, we don't want to have that.
So you want to be humble, and humility helps clothe you during that time. And so it steps into saying, and I'm telling you what, in a marriage, folks, your pride can really be before your fall.
Oh, absolutely.
You really, it's detrimental and I know it kind of, we rear up and we're feeling like, we need to stand our ground. And sometimes with our partners, we're so familiar. If you've been married long enough, you've been familiar, and it's like, well, I can do this, and we dig in our heels, and like what we teach about our stress animals, you're like that mule that digs in your heels and says no more, even though you may know that you're wrong. But in humility, being able to serve and just humble yourself and serve. And it goes back to that verse with what Jesus did when he humbled himself. I mean, Jesus, he's God, and he's washing feet. Are you kidding me? That's crazy stuff. But it's important, and what a model for us going forward.
Right. Absolutely. Okay, so those are the 4 different kind of like dichotomies or ways of having that serving spirit versus a non-serving spirit. And we've given you some of the verses. And so now the challenge is to actually think about what are some specific ways that you serve your spouse. What are some areas or specific opportunities or ways that you serve your spouse, as well as can you possibly write down maybe 3 different ways where your spouse could serve you? Because there's too many times where when we're coaching with couples, especially, or speaking at a retreat or whatever, we can usually run into a couple where it's well, they should know how to serve me, and it's like, well, no, remember, we can't be a mind reader, and sometimes it's how we can verbalize it and share it with the other person, right? So you need to, it's best to write them down or to really think through it, because you don't just want to fly off at the handle and say like, well, you could serve me by doing this. That's never the right tone to use. That usually ends up bad. It never turns out well on that side.
Demanding service is not a good idea, is it?
And so just remembering, that, yes, this is the person that knows you best and you know them best. And like David was just sharing, it's hard to have that humility and that pride kind of wells up in us. But really think through, what are some specific ways that you feel that you serve your spouse? And then write those down and actually have the conversation to say, you know what, I feel like these are ways that I help serve you. But could you validate that for me? Because truly, there could be somebody out there that is like, well, no, I never really thought of that one, before, like, as you serving me. But then they may be like, but you know what? Yeah, I guess that is true. And then think about, write down 3 areas or 3 ways that your spouse could serve you, and then share that with them, and just have that dialogue. And once again, no one's truly committing or signing a contract, right? Like, hey, I'm definitely going to do this. But if you're talking about going back to the yes-ness of the relationship, you will begin to flush these out in the right way, for the benefit of your relationship.
We like to ask the question because it's not a common thing to say, well, how can I serve you today? Or use that. But the term we like to use is, how can I be helpful to you? How can I be most helpful to you today?
Right.
And so in fact, on a daily basis, being able to turn to one another and say, and using those prompts that Theresa just shared, of this is how I can feel like I can be most helpful. This is how I believe my partner can be most helpful. Sharing that, have a little date night, have a little conversation on it. But then on a daily basis, being able to turn to one another and say, the way that you can be most helpful to me today is this. And we say over and over again that most couples, they need a tool and they need permission to use it.
Right.
The skill set or the tool, the relational tool, and the permission to use it. And so we're giving you the tool. The tool is that you turn to your partner on a daily basis and say, how can I be most helpful to you today? Or this is the way you can be most helpful to me today. And then listening and even repeating back sometimes so it's abundantly clear.
Right.
So, Theresa Mabry, how can I be most helpful to you? We're going to model this for you all before we close up shop today. Before we sign off, we're going to model the how can I be helpful to you thing today. So how can I be most helpful to you today?
Right. So I'm going to answer this 2-part. I'm going to answer with an answer for today, and then I'm going to share an answer of a way that you served me or you were helpful to me a couple of days ago.
Oh, okay.
So for this specific question right now, you can be helpful to me. Actually, today is almost done closing, and so this will be kind of set up for tomorrow. That the laundry really needs to get into the washer to get done, and I've run out of time. I feel today, so I would appreciate it if you could start the load within reason of when I'm going to return home from work, and then when I come home from work, I will be able to flip it over into the dryer and have that done. So I would really appreciate if you could help me by putting the load of laundry in the morning. Okay?
Yeah. That sounds good.
And then the way that I was going to share that you were most helpful was a couple of days ago. I was just really super tired, and I don't like to lay down in the middle of the day a lot of times, but I just needed to, and you let me sleep a little bit longer, and that was very helpful. So it was helpful that I did get a nap, and you kind of made sure I wasn't distracted. And but then also at the same time, you recognized how close to the supper hour it was becoming. And so when you came to wake me up and I realized you told me what time it was and I got all startled, you suggested that we take one of our gift cards that we had gotten, and we went and got City Barbecue. And did that. And that was super just helpful to me. That was a way to serve me, because that was one of those, like, you recognized the emotion or whatever that I might be carrying, and you were like, you know what, I can fix this. So
yeah
I appreciated that.
So you appreciated that I let you allowed you, kind of freed up time for you to nap the other day.
Right.
And then knowing that the nap went like right up until kind of
right.
meal prep time.
Because we had discussed a little bit of what we were going to go ahead and have for dinner that night, but you saw the writing on the wall and you were like, you know what, I'm just going to take this off.
Yeah,
so,
and it really served you to suggest and give you permission to, hey, let's go out to eat and use one of these
and
gift
I didn't
cards.
feel guilty about it then. I was like, you know what, that's great. So I really appreciated that. So to you now, Mr.
Well, and then the other thing I heard you saying is that it would be helpful to you if I get the laundry in for you so that that's not kind of looming over when you walk in the door.
Right.
And get it all ready to be transferred over.
Right. You start and I'll...
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So did I hear you correctly?
Yes, you did.
Awesome.
And now for you, Mr. David Mabry, how can I be helpful to you?
Yeah, I think what would be most helpful to me today? I should have given this more thought before we jumped into this. I think what would be most helpful to me is actually what would be most helpful to me is if you would put in a shipped order for groceries.
Yep.
And so that would be super helpful. Because I think we're running low on a couple of things, and that would be
several
probably
things.
yeah. And I don't mind that it's delivered like in the middle of the day tomorrow when I'm kind of here getting some things done.
Okay.
In the office, and so but that'd be super helpful is if you can initiate the shipped order, and of course I'll look if you want me to and just check things over and see if there's anything I want to add to it. But yeah, that'd be super helpful.
All right, so I hear you saying if I can help start the shipped order or at least get it all put together and then call you in, you can give it a look-see, and we'll get that put in by tonight for tomorrow. Gotcha.
Yeah, and I don't mind if it comes, like I said, when I'm here and you aren't here, I'll put things away and receive it and everything,
awesome.
And that would be teamwork makes the dream work, baby.
You got it.
Well, hey, you have the verse for today. We really appreciate you all joining us today. And we want to just encourage you all once again that if you had found value in this today, in this content, then please rate, review, follow on whatever platform that is your preference.
Right.
And could you share? We really want to encourage you to share because once again, let's try to encourage as many couples out there as possible. And I think
subscribe.
subscribe. The other thing is that join us on Facebook. We do a Facebook Live every Thursday night at 8:00 Eastern Standard Time.
Right.
And so we are in the month of May. We're dealing with marriage and parenting, meaning how does your marriage impact your parenting style and also how you adjust for that. So join us during that time.
And that's children of any age and stage.
Yeah, including, we covered a couple weeks ago. You can catch some of our rewatch when we talk about the 6 stages of marriages in parenting status. And so what do we have going next week, hon?
Next week, you will tune in to listen to the T. So how can we
next week is...
How can we touch one another?
Yay! So I love that part.
I know. So how can we touch one another? Remember, it's love step. So it's love one another, serve one another, touch one another, edify one another, and have peace with one another. So tune in next week for touch.
Did you guys know the Bible tells us to touch one another?
The Bible tells us so. There you go.
Yay!
All right. Well, hey, sports fans and whoever else is out there.
One another
couples. Yeah.
Thank you for joining us this week, and we will catch you next week as well.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.